October 20th, 1994. The last entry in Heather Donahue's journal is dated 2 days before she disappeared. It doesn't say where she is. It doesn't say she's afraid. It says she can hear something outside the tent that sounds like children laughing, and that she decided not to wake the others because she didn't want them to hear it too. That's the detail most people skip. Not the footage, not the ending, the fact that she heard it, recognized it as wrong, and chose silence. If you've ever been in the woods at night, you know exactly what kind of decision that is. If you're the kind of person who needs to know how a story ends before you can sleep, subscribe. Every video on this channel is something I couldn't stop thinking about. This one especially. Burkittsville, Maryland. Population somewhere around 200, depending on the year you ask. It sits on the edge of the Black Hills Forest in Frederick County, a stretch of old-growth woodland that has been generating documented accounts of strange deaths, disappearances, and what locals call the business in the woods for close to 300 years. Not 3 decades, 3 centuries. That timeline is the first thing most people don't sit with long enough. The town was called Blair before it was called Burkittsville. In 1824, it was renamed after a mass grave was unearthed. 8 children, cause of death never officially determined, found in a field outside what had been the original settlement. The renaming was not ceremonial. It was an attempt, local historians have noted, to put distance between the new community and whatever had happened to the old one. That is not a thing towns do lightly. The first documented account of what would eventually be called the Blair Witch dates to 1785. A woman named Elly Kedward was banished from Blair in the dead of winter after multiple children accused her of drawing blood from them. The charge on record is witchcraft. What's less discussed is that the children who accused her were never asked, in any surviving document, to explain what she allegedly wanted the blood for. That question is just absent, gone from the record like it was never asked. By the following year, every child who had accused Kedward was dead. More than half the remaining population of Blair had left or disappeared. The settlement was abandoned. In 1809, a collection of local folklore assembled by a man named John Kedward, possibly a descendant, referred to the Blair Woods as a place that refuses to keep what enters it, which is a sentence I've read at least 40 times and am no closer to knowing what to do with. What I want you to hold on to is this. None of what I just told you was invented for a movie. Those records exist. That grave existed. Elly Kedward existed in the documented folklore of the region more than 200 years before any film crew went into those woods. In 1940, a man named Rustin Parr, a hermit living deep in the Black Hills, walked into a grocery store in Burkittsville and told the clerk he was finally finished. Police found the bodies of 7 children in the cellar of his cabin. He had murdered them in pairs, forcing one child to face the corner while he killed the other so they wouldn't have to see. Parr was tried, convicted, and executed. His stated reason for the killings was that an old woman's spirit had told him to do it, and that she had been visiting him in the woods for years. The court dismissed this as the delusion of a disturbed man. What the court didn't dismiss, because it couldn't, was the testimony of the one child who survived, a girl who said she had been made to stand in the corner and listen. She said the sounds she heard during those sessions were not the sounds of a person killing another person. She never elaborated. The transcript records her as saying only that it wasn't that, and then going silent. The judge moved on. In 1994, 3 film students from Montgomery College, Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael Williams, entered the Black Hills Forest to shoot a documentary about the Blair Witch legend. They were reported missing on October 22nd. Their equipment was recovered almost a year later, in October 1995, buried under the foundation of a ruined cabin that investigators later connected to the Rustin Parr site. The footage on the cameras was intact. Law enforcement viewed it. It was returned to the families without explanation of what it contained. What happened next is the part where the timeline gets complicated in a way I haven't seen adequately explained anywhere. In 1999, a film was released called The Blair Witch Project, presented as documentary footage, built around the recordings recovered from the 1994 disappearance. It made $248 million worldwide on a production budget of approximately $60,000. The students' families confirmed the actors in the film were not their children. The film's production company, Artisan Entertainment, released a companion website presenting the events as real, including fabricated police documents, fake missing persons reports, and manufactured eyewitness testimony, all before the film even opened. The Federal Trade Commission received complaints. No action was taken. What I need you to sit with for a moment is the cascade. 3 real people disappeared in those woods. Real footage was recovered, and then a film appeared using those woods, that structure, that corner, the corner, and the entire apparatus of the actual event, presented as real, and the line between what was documented and what was constructed was allowed to stay permanently blurred. That was not an accident. The people who made that film knew exactly what the corner meant. The Rustin Parr cabin site, by the way, was never definitively located by anyone outside law enforcement. The 1994 students were trying to find it when they went missing. The remains of a structure found during the evidence recovery in 1995 were cataloged, and then the record goes quiet. The site was not preserved. It was not opened to researchers. A local official quoted in a Frederick County newspaper in 1997 described the area as not suitable for public access, which is the kind of answer that raises more questions than the question did. In 2016, another film crew entered the Black Hills Forest to shoot a sequel. They reported equipment failures, persistent disorientation, and at least one crew member described hearing sounds they could not identify moving around the camp perimeter each night. The film was released. The crew returned, but 3 of the sound technicians who worked on location, not actors, technicians, have never given a single interview about what they recorded in those woods. 3 of them independently silent. There's no clean explanation I can give you for what happened to Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael Williams. There is no body. There is no arrest. There is no resolution in any document I have been able to access. What there is a forest that has been generating the same shape of story, the same structure of disappearance, the same motif of children, the insistence on silence from those who came close for 300 years. That pattern doesn't resolve, it just continues. The last thing Heather filmed before her camera went dead was a stone wall in a dark room. She's holding the camera low, almost at her side. She's not narrating. She's not screaming.
She's just pointing the lens at the wall and breathing and not moving. And whatever she heard on the other side of that wall, whatever made her stop and stand perfectly still, she took with her. Some things don't end when the footage runs out. Some things are still running. If this story is still sitting in you somewhere, that's the right response. Subscribe. I have more. Not every case has an answer, but every case has something most people never found. That's what this channel is for. I'll see you in the next one. Keep the lights on if you need to. I'm not going to tell you you don't.